follow along with us.
Okay.
Today is January the 19th. I don't know why, but I feel led to say it is also a new moon, everybody.
Oh, really?
Yesterday, actually, today and yesterday.
Ooh, that's good to know.
We're still in that energy.
It feels like a fresh start for me in some ways. I can't even articulate yet.
Well, that's lovely.
That is
Yeah.
lovely. New starts
I
are always good.
I feel like I went through a threshold and I'm not quite acclimated to where I am yet.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just for for everybody, we're on page 185, but I'm going to start with the last sentence on 184. And just so Linda can find it, it is in the interpersonal ethic. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and read that whole last paragraph, not just
Yeah, I was saying
Sounds
that in my
good.
head because I think that would give us, we'd be
yeah,
back
Yeah,
in the flow.
that
right.
sounds great.
Yeah, I think so too. So, how should we view children? I asked. We should view them as they really are, as endpoints in evolution that lead us forward. But in order to learn to evolve, they need our energy on a constant basis, unconditionally. The worst thing that can be done to children is to drain their energy while correcting them. This is what creates control dramas in them, as you already know. I I have to be honest with you guys. I've thought a lot about this because I have a grandchild, and
Right.
I've also been shown quite clearly how when we do what we're going to call correction is actual furtherance of programming and conditioning more
Ooh,
than anything else. And
wow.
it's a
Yeah.
continuation on of the control dramas that we were raised with, that we now think we have to instill in our children. And I say that in that way because I'm very clear. I can see the programming and conditioning that I laid on my own child. And then I see him trying to instill in her.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so, because I have this, I'm going to call it a privileged viewpoint because honestly, I can see it so very clearly. I can say I don't have the answer for the right way forward for parenting, but I know that what we are currently doing is not the way to go because it's just continuing to perpetuate those control dramas, just like they're saying here. These
Well,
learned manipulations on the child's part can be avoided if the adults give them all the energy they need, no matter what the situation. That is why they should always be included in conversations, especially conversations about them. And you should
Mm.
never take responsibility for more children than you can give attention to, which is another reason why I had my tubes tied because I knew I only could do one.
Yep. So I did the same thing after the twins because I knew that my grandmother had 7 children, and you bet that I would have had at least 7.
Oh
And
my.
I said after the twins, I was like, oh, that was enough. So 3 is enough.
I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's good
So
to know when to stop.
manuscripts say what, Lisa? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's good to know when to stop.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. The manuscript says all this, I ask. Yes, she said. And the point about the number of children is highly stressed. I felt confused. Why is the number of children one has important? She
Mm.
glanced at me for an instant as she drove. Because any one adult can only focus on and give attention to one child at a time. If there are too many children for the number of adults, then the adults become overwhelmed and unable to give enough energy. The children begin to compete with each other for the adults' time. And I'm going to add and attention. And I've
Hmm.
seen that. I also know what that looks like. I felt it actually. Now thinking back then, I feel because I'm one of three. I'm the oldest of three. And
Hmm.
I clearly remember competing with the other two for my mother's attention. She wasn't really all that emotionally available to begin with. And she doted all of her time on our brother, and my sister and I pretty much were to the back. And so I know what that feels like. So I know that's a very real thing. Sibling rivalry, I said. Yes, but the manuscript says that this problem is more important than people think. Adults often glamorize the idea of large families and children growing up together, but children should learn the world from adults, not from other children. In too many cultures, children are running in gangs.
Mm.
That's happening here in
Hmm.
our world, I feel
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
like, which is what this whole trans thing is about, in my view,
Oh,
in
yeah.
a lot of ways, in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, you're right.
Because I cannot tell you how many times I heard this out of my son's friend group. Something about, oh, everybody's gay. No, not everybody is gay, but they were all telling each other that they were.
Mm.
And so, in order to fit in with your friend group, yeah, this is what I'm saying. I feel in many ways that is what ends up happening in those little gangs.
Mhm.
Manuscript says humans will slowly understand that they should not bring children into the world unless there is at least one adult committed to focus full attention all of the time on each child. And I feel like that is so true. That whole thing of working outside the home and having children and doing everything else, that the children are what suffers in that scenario.
That is so
Hmm.
true.
That's
My
true.
child really suffered, I want to say, because I know I did.
Mhm.
But wait a minute, I said. In many situations, both parents must work to survive. This denies them the right to have children. Not necessarily, she replied. The manuscript says humans will learn to extend their families beyond blood ties so that someone else is able to provide one on one attention. All the energy does not have to come from the parents alone. In fact, it is better if it does not. Isn't there something, Lisa, about how the Pleiadians raise children?
I've been sitting here thinking on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the young people have the children, but they also don't work, which is interesting. And the older people
do the parenting.
raise the children.
Yeah,
And it's a group of dedicated people. That's their career. They raise children.
Hmm.
And the children, I have the sense of it that they're together, but they're not together in terms of how we line up 30 kids in 6 rows, you know,
right.
Yeah.
like one teacher at the front of the room. It's one-on-one, and then you participate in group activities. But it's sort of like an apprentice. You have a student and an apprentice. And so whatever you're doing, the proper behavior is modeled by the adults in the room.
Mm,
And the little ones pick that up. And they do play together. Like there were some scenes I was shown that looked like a daycare or a school, I say daycare because it was less structured, like no desks, more play areas, things of interest. But it wasn't play, it was very Montessori. So like
yep.
some were cooking and some were woodworking or the learning was tied to skill sets for life, like
Right.
I
skill
think we need
sets.
that. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it wasn't learning just to learn. It was to learn how to take care of yourself.
Well, but see, that's why it's not programming and conditioning. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think about education and I cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
As
And
Nope.
the
long
parents,
as you can memorize and regurgitate, you can have a piece of paper with your name on it saying that you passed all the little ticks that needed to be ticked. But I'm telling you, then you go out in the world and whoever's got that piece of paper does not mean they know what the fuck they're doing.
Exactly.
and the
Yeah.
parents of these children were off doing their own thing. They were figuring out what they want to be when they grow up. And so they were like bouncing from thing to thing, following their passion. And then after a certain age, so like right now would be the age after menopause is when you start to say, okay, so what am I interested in? Who am I?
Right.
What skill set did I arrive here with? And how can I support the all or feed the community? And then you find your career and you begin working.
Well, like that teacher, that chancellor of the Starfleet Academy is 422 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Woo.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I was in the school system for 14 years. And I did part of it was in public school and then part of it was private
Okay.
school for kids with autism. It was a therapeutic day school. And I'm telling you, that was what I mean, it was a good school. I mean, both of them were, had their own things, but really, but we taught kids with autism, higher functioning autistic. And that whole aspect with the therapeutic, with the art therapy, with the music therapy. We had a little place where it was it was called the like the store or the where the kids could come and get like a coffee or like a shop that was teaching them
Yeah.
uh those type of skills as well. But the Waldorf school is another one besides Montessori that
Yeah.
does life skill type teaching.
Yep.
And really, I believe our school system needs to be revamped and
Right,
redone
right. I
because,
agree.
yeah,
Ac- According to some of those principles. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
wholeheartedly because it just doesn't make any sense. I cannot tell you how many people I have come in contact with in my lifetime who just knew that I was a college educated, degree toting somebody, and I never graduated high school.
that's okay.
That's right. See, so it doesn't translate. You know what I mean? It doesn't because I've known some college degreed individuals that I wouldn't ask to walk my dog.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? Um,
Uh-huh.
so it just doesn't
Yeah,
make
book
sense.
smarts and street smarts are two different things for sure.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I had a learning disability growing up, so like I didn't,
Me
so it
too.
was kind of neat how that came full circle, and I was able to help those kids because I couldn't sit still. I still to this day, it's not, the book club is teaching me something here. I could sit still for a couple hours,
I got
but
you.
for the most part, I'm on the go all the day, for
Yeah.
most of the day.
Right.
Just my energy works better with going forward.
Uh-huh. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I said, you've done something right. Moretta certainly seems mature. Carla frowned and said, don't tell me, tell her. Oh, right. I looked at the child. You act very grown up, Moretta. She looked away shyly for a moment, then said, thank you. Carla hugged her warmly. Carla looked at me proudly. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to relate to Moretta according to the manuscript's guideline. Haven't I, Moretta? The child smiled and nodded. I've tried to give her energy and to always tell her the truth, no matter, to always tell her the truth of every situation in language she can understand. When she asked the questions a young child asks, I treated them very seriously, avoiding the temptation of giving her a fanciful answer, which is plainly for the entertainment of adults. Yeah, I think we might have even covered that once before. I had such a tough time with myself about the whole Santa Claus thing with my child
Mm,
because of
mhm.
that very thing.
Yeah.
I smiled. Do you mean untruths like storks bring babies, that sort of thing? Yes, but these cultural expressions aren't so bad. Children figure these out quickly because they stay the same. Worse, the distortions created on the spot by adults just because they want to have a little fun and because they believe the truth is too complicated for a child to comprehend. But this is not right. The truth can always be expressed at a child's level of understanding. It just takes some thought. I do feel like that's correct. And a lot of people, like I said, I was harassed endlessly about the way I chose to educate my son.
Mm,
We're talking way over his head. You don't need to be, he doesn't need to be a part of this conversation. I'm like, boy, yes, he does. It's for the
yes.
very reasons that they stated here. It affects him. What I can and can't afford, or what I can and cannot do outside of this conversation, affects him
Yep.
as well. So he needs to be in on the conversation because it's his home. He and I, it was really just he and I against the world kind of deal,
Mm-hmm.
for a very long time. Uh, what does the manuscript say about this issue? It says we should always find a way to tell a child the truth. Part of me resisted this idea. I was one who enjoyed kidding around with children. Don't kids usually understand that adults are just playing? How are they going to understand that? That was always my thing.
Mhm.
How are they supposed to know that?
Right.
They only know what we tell them. So how are they supposed to
And the
glean?
only reason it's so fun for you is because you're tricking them,
Right.
Right.
because they can't figure it out and you think it's funny.
I know.
So that
Yes.
right there, that in
Right.
and of itself tells you don't do that.
Right. All this seems to make them grow up too fast and take some of the fun out of childhood. She looked at me sternly. Moretta is full of fun. We chase and tumble and play all the childhood fantasy games. The difference is that when we are fantasizing, she knows it.
Yeah, I want to throw in something here. I've been kind of thinking about this for the last few paragraphs. I have a big problem flying to children too. And it's beyond the Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. It's more about, I don't know, people sometimes frame it as little white lies to protect their children. Like they're not honest about how things work. They're not honest about their feelings. They're not honest about their budget. Like they're just dishonest because they don't want the children to have adult size worries or difficulties.
Right. And it's
But
almost like
honestly,
what he's going there.
yes, but honestly, in my opinion, you're setting them up for mass confusion.
Right.
You are teaching them to go on red and to stop on green, meaning they're responding to the world as though it is one way, when in reality it is the opposite way. And you're putting them in harm's way because of it. And when they figure it out, and they will,
Yep.
depending on how bright your child is, it could happen sooner than later. They catch you in these lies. Now, they may not call you out, but they will never forget. And they will never trust you the same again. And you have lost something of great value, in my opinion, which is your good standing with your child. And that's, I think, why the Bible referred to it as such your yes mean yes and your no, no. And that is
Uh-huh.
about being true to the truth and standing up for what is real and right. Because I know I felt like I wanted everyone, all the children around me to know, and the adults. That's why I say everyone. I wanted everyone to know that I will never lie to a child. And if somebody wants to ask me about Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, I will give them an answer that is age appropriate, but also that it is fantasy. And the why, because what it does, how it's a play, and adults like to engage in this because of the fun of it. And I dug deep for what do these holidays mean to me? Why am I participating? And
Right.
I would say you'll have to talk to your mom about this, but I can share with you how I feel about the subject, and I would just take ownership for what I'm about to say. And I would say, and it's up to you to decide what it means for you, so that I am modeling the behavior that I wish for them to take, which is look at everything, including what your parents say, with a grain of salt and decide what you think is real and true and authentic about the situation. Because, like there's so many learning situations that I saw parents take away from their children, saying, well, you can't really handle that truth. And that's not fair to do, because they don't, first of all, that is a learned skill set, how to handle things.
Right.
And if you shield them, they never exercise that muscle. And if you don't model for them how to work through a thing with your logic and your heart, and let spirit inform the journey, they're not going to know how to do that. And so
Right.
really you're crippling and handicapping your children with all this, well, we don't want them to worry, and we got to talk to them like they're children. And yes, I agree that developmentally children aren't ready for a certain level of, say, any one topic, but there is always a level at which they can meet it. And the more honest and truthful you can be right there, the rest they'll grow into. And I figure during those early conversations, I'm teaching critical thinking so
Yes.
that they can
Right.
work through the rest of it on their own, because they'll have a skill set on
Right.
board and know how to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
for me,
That's
you
awesome.
just hit on what the problem is for most of the world right now as a whole, actually,
Yeah.
because uh when you were saying that about that, a lot of what I mean, we've seen this, you and I have seen this most recently, where it's like folks can't go at a particular place. They can't imagine that it's anything other than this.
Right.
And that's because of the lie that they really bought into, that programmed condition
Yep.
that they were raised with. uh, that
Society reinforces in every way and
right,
every day.
that's right. And in truth, what we're finding, what I've found, and I feel like what you spoke to there, by raising a child in that way, what you're doing is asking them to keep their mind open and make their own decision about what they're hearing,
Yep.
and not blindly believe something because the authority in the room says so.
Right.
Because right now on the world stage, we got a whole bunch
Of
of
authority figures saying so, and it's a
Right,
hot mess
right.
out there.
and it's not at all what a lot of folks think it is. And they can't even open their minds to consider something different
Yeah.
than that. And so it's like imperative.
Yeah. That didn't serve us very well.
No,
We
not at
got to do
all.
something totally different moving forward, or we're just going to get more of this.
Right.
The other thing is that I believe kids are smarter than we think that they are. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I have met so
Yeah.
many kids lately that it's like, oh my gosh, you got it. Like at certain subjects or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're smarter than you think they are. They can feel, they are in tune, like we should be in tune. They're very in tune,
Well,
very
yes, and I maintain, Lori, that that is because children are closer to source.
right,
And unless they've been programmed and conditioned in the same manner as the adults in the room, they
right,
do know the truth of it. They can feel the truth of it until it gets, in some cases, beat out of them that no, this is the way it is. Why? Because I said so, because society says so. And there's really no other rhyme or reasons as to the why of it in most cases.
Yep.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
this is a big one for moving forward.
It
Yeah.
is.
uh, So she says, Moretta seems confident, Carla continued, because I was there for her. I gave her one-on-one attention when she needed it. And if I wasn't there, my sister, who lives next door, was there. She always had an adult to answer her questions. And because she has had this sincere attention, she has never felt she had to act out or show off. She has always had enough energy, and that makes her assume she will continue to have enough, which makes the transition from receiving energy from adults to getting it from the universe, which we already talk about, much easier for her to grasp. I
Oh,
noticed,
can we stop right there for just a
yeah,
second?
sure.
This is reminding me of why I gave Jasmine what do they call that? When you give children money, an allowance.
Ah, yes.
Because I really didn't want it to be tied to when your chores are done or like pay her to do work around the house, because that's expected. I'm sorry, that's a given. You will work whether you get paid or not. We're not
Right.
tying, I did not want her to associate labor for wage. I
Ah,
wanted her to associate the labor as an act of love. You are a part of the family, and this is how you contribute. You do your fair share for the community at large. In this case, our household. That's why
that's
you
good.
clean your bathroom, so that no one else has to walk into it and pick up the pieces. That's for you. Um, your laundry, you clean up the kitchen after meals, you cook, you do these things because you're a part of a community.
Right.
That's a given, period. Has nothing to do with money. And the money comes because we live in a society where we are using money for things. And I'm going to teach you how the money system works. So here's the money that you will receive. And by us and I arbitrarily chose $1 a year. And I started when she was 5 so we could have the conversations. And it did wonderful things because I gave her envelopes and we wrote on them, one was for donations, one was a discretionary fund, and one was life savings. And so and I always gave her ones, singles, just to make it simple, to get the concepts in there, that a percentage of your money gets paid to you first. So the first dollar that you've made or that you have in your hand goes into life savings and it doesn't get touched. The second dollar goes into donations because you want to assist others who are in need. This is according to our value system. We filled out the envelopes, we discussed what we value because she every year wanted to donate at Christmas. She, already had these things in her heart. And so I was teaching her how to plan and to budget for them. And then your discretionary fund is, and I used a big word and we looked it up and we talked about what it means, that this you use at your own discretion. So let's say we're at Target and you want that toy. If you have the money in your discretionary fund, that's where you would dip in to purchase that thing. Or if you want a Nintendo DS, then you save all your dollars toward that until you have it. So it's up to you what you do with this money, or you could spend a little bit every day on candy, and then that's all. You'll never, it won't grow, and you'll have a candy treat every day. And she was like, oh, like her wheels were spinning. And the first thing she did is save up for a Nintendo.
Oh, wow.
And she saved $260 and bought everything. So to me,
Did you give her $1 a day, did you say?
no, I gave her $5 a week, $1
Okay.
a year for her age. So when she was 5, it was $5.
Okay,
When
gotcha.
she turned 6, it was $6.
Gotcha.
So by the time we stopped it when we moved here and she was 17. So she never made more than $16, I don't think, in that way. But she saved it. She literally did that. And then at Christmas time, she had a pile of cash and she decided what she wanted to do with it because that's when she would want to do all the donating because everybody was pushing donations and she'd come to me with that. And then also it stopped like at the grocery stores. I gave her the budget. So I said, this is what we have for groceries. And this is our grocery list. And it's your job, your role to keep track. So when we put something in the cart, please scratch it off the list and write down the dollar amount. And we're going to keep a tally running. And so she did all that. And that stopped the can I have, but can we have, and the whining. And I didn't have to say, we can't afford that, because the truth is we could afford it. But we can't afford everything in the grocery store. So we're
Right.
going to make decisions. So I'd say to her, well, how much money do we have left? Let's see. And so she'd run the numbers and say, we've got $50 left. And I'd say, and how much do we have on our list that we have yet to purchase? And she'd count up all the things and she'd go, oh, never mind. And she'd like, okay, bananas. And we just move along. Like there was no, and then there were other times where we had a debate. Should we put this back? Do we want to get 2 of these and none of these? Like what? And she was a part of the decision making, knowing that this was our groceries for the week. This is how we were going to eat. And you were going to have to live with that. To me, that is a much better way of, first of all, I didn't teach her that we're limited by money. We're empowered by it. Also, we don't need it because the universe, like she just got it. The money just came to her for no bloody reason. And that we don't work for the community in order to get something back. We work for the community because we are a part of it and we have a role to play. And we always give back where we receive.
Now, I
And
want
to
to
me,
point out,
so
look at
you're
the
bigger.
difference that instills in a person.
Yes,
Because if you have to do this
for that.
tit for tat bullshit, that sets up a whole other perspective that is got that ooginess to it.
Well, and you might be willing to do things you wouldn't normally be willing to do
Right.
in order to receive the money because you don't know that it just can come to you for no
Right.
reason. You think you
Exactly.
have to perform or do in order to receive.
Yeah.
And that's not how the universe works.
No.
It isn't. It just gives freely. You just have to know how to focus on what it is that you desire to receive and give that away. And so I feel like what I did with her was to set that up so she could make that transition when money went away. So
Right.
she wasn't all confused about how things really work in the universe. Because everybody's confused. You know, when I brought up the topic to people about we don't need money, that's just
Yeah.
an
Everybody
agreed
gets that.
upon structure that has nothing to do with anything. And actually, it's now hindering our well being.
Right.
They're like, you are nuts, lady. Yes, we need money. We will always need money. And I'm like, no, we don't. Do the deer need money? Who do they pay? Who pays them?
Right.
You know, no, we don't need it. But they couldn't even. So I wanted Jasmine to have a concept of that for a
That's
future
awesome.
conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Good lesson.
No, it perfect as far as I can see, and sorely missing in the world at large. And
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so
I think this is where we're going.
yes, I do. I agree. I
Yeah, we'll be doing it soon.
I noticed the terrain outside. We were traveling through deep jungle now, and though I couldn't see it, I knew the sun was low in the afternoon sky. Can we take a quick, short little break, ladies? I got a tinkle so bad.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad you
me
said that.
too.
Okay,
Let's take a break.
okay. I wanted to get it started again. So just to be clear, I asked everybody while we were on this little break if you guys would mind that we publish this. I really this has been such a great and we still have an hour to go.
Yay.
Okay, so can we get to Aikidos tonight? I asked. No, Paula said, but we can stay at a house I know. Near here, I asked. Yes, it is the house of a friend. He works for the Wildlife Service. He works for the government? Some of the Amazon is a protected area. He is the local agent, but influential. His name is Juan Hinton. Do not worry, he believes in the manuscript, and they have never bothered him. By the time we arrived, the sky was completely dark. Around us, the jungle was alive with night sounds, the air muggy. The large, well-lit wood frame house stood at the end of a clearing in the dense foliage. Nearby were two large buildings and several jeeps. Another vehicle was up on blocks, and two men worked around the lights underneath. A thin Peruvian, dressed in expensive clothing, answered Carla's knock and smiled at her until he noticed Marjorie, Moretta, and myself waiting on the steps. His face turned nervous and displeased as he talked to her in Spanish. She said something pleadingly in return, but his mannerism and inflection indicated that he did not want us to stay. Then, through the crack in the door, I noticed a lone female figure standing in the foyer. I moved a little to bring her face into view. It was Julia. As I looked, she turned her head and saw me. then quickly walked forward with a surprised look on her face. She touched the shoulder of the man at the door and said something quietly into his ear. The man nodded, then opened the door with a look of resignation. We all introduced ourselves as Hinton led the way into the den area. Julia looked at me and said, "We meet again." She wore khaki pants with pockets on the legs and a bright red shirt. "Yes, we do," I said. A Peruvian servant stopped Hinton, and after talking for a minute, the two walked into another part of the house. Julia sat in a chair by a coffee table and motioned for the rest of us to sit on a couch across from her. Marjorie appeared panicked. She looked at me intensely. Carla also seemed to be aware of Marjorie's distress. She walked over and took her by the hand. "Let's get some hot tea," she suggested. As they walked away, Marjorie glanced back at me. I smiled and watched them until they turned the corner into the kitchen. Then I turned to face Julia. "So, what do you think it means?" she asked. What does what mean?" I replied, still distracted. "That we have run into each other again." "Oh, I don't know." "How did you wind up with Carla, and where are you going?" "She saved us. Marjorie and I had been detained by Peruvian troops. When we escaped, she happened to be there to help us." Julia looked intense. "Tell me what occurred." I leaned back and told her the whole story, beginning at the point in which I had taken Father Carl's truck, and then all about the capture and our eventual escape. "And Carla agreed to take you to Iquitos?" Julia asked. "Yes." "Why do you want to go there?" "That's where Will told Father Carl he was going. Will apparently has a lead about the ninth insight. Also, Sebastian is there for some reason." Julia nodded. "Yes, Sebastian has a mission near there. It's where he made his reputation converting the Indians." "What about you?" I asked. "What are you doing here?" Julia told me that she too wanted to find the ninth insight, but that she had no leads. She had come to this house after thinking repeatedly of her old friend Hinton. I was hardly listening. Marjorie and Carla had walked out of the kitchen and were standing in the hall talking, cups of tea in their hands. Marjorie caught my eye but said nothing. "Has she read much of the manuscript?" Julia asked, nodding toward Marjorie. "Just the third insight," I said. "We can probably get her out of Peru if that's what she wants." I turned and looked at her. "How?" "Rolando is leaving tomorrow for Brazil. We have some friends at the American Embassy there. They can get her back to the United States. We have helped other Americans this way." I looked at her and nodded tentatively. I realized I was having mixed feelings about what she had said. Part of me knew that leaving would be best for Marjorie, but another part wanted her to stay, to remain with me. I felt changed, energized when she was around. "I think I need to talk with her," I finally said. "Of course," Julia replied. "We can talk later." I got up and walked toward her. Carla was heading back toward the kitchen. Marjorie stepped around the corner of the hall out of sight. When I walked up, she was leaning back against the wall. I pulled Marjorie into my arms. My body pulsated. "Feel that energy?" I asked, whispering into her ear. "It's incredible," she said. "What does it mean?" "I don't know. We have some kind of connection." I glanced around. No one could see us. We kissed passionately. When I pulled back to look at her face, she looked different, stronger somehow. And I thought back to the day we met at Vicente. and to the conversation in the restaurant at Kula. I couldn't believe the amount of energy I felt in her presence and when she touched me. She held me tightly. Since that day at Vicente, she said, I've wanted to be with you. I don't know what to think about it then. I didn't know what to think about it then, but the energy is wonderful. I've never experienced anything like this. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Carla walking up, smiling. She told us that dinner was ready, so we made our way into the dining room and found a huge buffet of fresh fruits and vegetables and breads. Everyone served their plates and sat around a large table. After Moretta sang a blessing song, we spent an hour and a half eating and talking casually. Hinton had lost his nervousness, and he set a light-hearted mood, which helped to ease the tension of our escape. Marjorie was talking freely and laughing. Sitting beside her filled me with warm love. After dinner, Hinton took us back into the den where a custard dessert was served with a sweet liqueur. Marjorie and I sat on the couch and fell into a long conversation about our pasts and significant life experiences. We seemed to grow closer and closer. The only difficulty we discovered was that she lived on the West Coast and I resided in the South. Later, Marjorie dismissed the problem and laughed heartily. I can't wait until we get back to the United States, she said. We'll have so much fun traveling back and forth. I sat back and gave her a serious look. Julia said she could arrange a way for you to go home now. You mean both of us, don't you? She replied. No, I can't go. Why? She asked. I can't leave without you, but I can't stand to stay here any longer either. I'll go crazy. You'll have to go on ahead. I'll be able to leave soon. No, she said loudly. I can't stand that. Carla, who was walking back into the den from putting Marietta to bed, glanced toward us and then looked away quickly. Hinton and Julia were still talking, seemingly oblivious to Marjorie's outburst. Please, Marjorie said, let's just go home. I looked away. Okay, fine, she said. Stay. She stood and walked briskly toward the bedroom area. My gut wrenched as I watched Marjorie walk away. The energy I had gained with her collapsed, and I suddenly felt weak and confused. I tried to shake it off. After all, I told myself, I hadn't known her that long. On the other hand, I thought maybe she was correct. Maybe I should just go home. What difference could I make here anyway? Back at home, I could perhaps marshal some support for the manuscript and stay alive as well. I stood up and started to follow her down the hall, but for some reason, I sat back down. I couldn't decide what to do. May I join you for a minute? Carla was suddenly asking. I hadn't noticed that she was standing beside the sofa. Sure, I said. She sat down and looked at me with regard. I couldn't help overhearing what is going on, she said. And I thought that before you made your decision, you might want to hear what the eighth insight says about addictions to people. I'm so glad that this is coming up.
Me too.
Yes, please. I want to know what that means. When one first learns to be clear and to engage one's evolution, any of us can be stopped suddenly by an addiction to another person. You're speaking of Marjorie and me, aren't you? Let me explain the process, she said. and you judge for yourself. Okay. First, let me say that I had a very hard time with this part of the insight. I don't think I would have ever understood if I had not met Professor Renaud. Renaud, I exclaimed. I know him. We met when I was learning the fourth insight. Well, she said, we met when we both had reached the eighth insight. He stayed at my house for several days. I nodded in amazement. He said that the idea of an addiction, as used in the manuscript, explains why power struggles arise in romantic relationships. We've always wondered what causes the bliss and euphoria of love to end, to suddenly turn into conflict. And now we know. It is a result of the flow of energy between the individuals involved. When love first happens, the two individuals are giving each other energy unconsciously, and both people feel buoyant and elated. That's the incredible high we call being, quote, in love. Unfortunately, once they expect this feeling to come from the other person, they cut themselves off from the energy in the universe and begin to rely even more on the energy from each other. Only now there doesn't seem to be enough. And so they stop giving each other energy and fall back into their dramas in an attempt to control each other and force the other's energy their way. At this point, the relationship degenerates into the usual power struggle. She hesitated for a moment, as if checking whether I understood, then added, Renaud told me that our susceptibility to this kind of addiction can be described psychologically, if that will help you understand. I nodded again for her to continue. Renaud said the problem starts in our early family. Because of the energy competition there, none of us were able to complete an important psychological process. We weren't able to integrate our opposite sexual side. This is exactly the issue that every being on this planet has going on, and it's so pronounced on the world stage that, in my opinion, that's what a lot of the trans stuff is about.
Mm.
The non-integration of the whole of the sexual. Our what? In my case, she continued, I wasn't able to integrate my male side. In your case, you weren't able to integrate your female side. The reason we become addicted to someone of the opposite sex is that we've yet to access this opposite sex energy ourselves. You see, the mystical energy that we can tap as an inner source is both male and female. We can eventually open up to it, but when we first begin to evolve, we have to be careful. The integration process takes some time. If we connect prematurely with a human source for our female or male energy, we block the universal supply. I told her I didn't understand. Of how this integration is supposed to work in an ideal family, she explained. And then perhaps you can see what I mean. In any family, the child must first receive energy from the adults in his life, usually identifying with and integrating the energy of the same-sexed parent is accomplished easily. But receiving energy from the other parent can be more difficult because of the differences in the sexes. And not at all if you don't have a father in the home or if you don't have a mother in the home. Let's use a female child as an example. All the little girl knows as she first attempts to integrate her male side is that she is extremely attracted to her father. She wants him around and close to her at all the time. The manuscript explains that what she really wants is male energy, because this male energy complements her female side. From this male energy, she receives a sense of completion and euphoria, but she mistakenly thinks that the only way to have this energy is by sexually possessing her father and keeping him close physically. Interestingly, because she intuits that this energy is really supposed to be her own and that she should be able to command this energy at will, she wants to direct the father as if he were that part of herself. She thinks he is magical and perfect and able to supply her every whim. In a less than ideal family, this sets up a power conflict between the little girl and her dad. Dramas are formed as she learns to posture herself in order to manipulate him into giving her the energy she desires. But in an ideal family, the father would remain uncompetitive. He would continue to relate honestly and have enough energy so as to supply her unconditionally, even though he can't do everything she asks. The important thing to know here in our ideal example is that the father would remain open and communicative. She thinks he is ideal and magical, but if he honestly explains who he is and what he is doing and why, then the little girl can integrate his particular style and abilities and proceed past an unrealistic view of her father. In the end, she will see him as just a particular human being, a human being with his own talents and faults. Once this true emulation takes place, then the child makes an easy transition from receiving her opposite sex energy from her father to receiving it as part of the overall energy existing in the universe at large. The problem, she went on, is that most parents up to now have been competing with their own children for energy, and that has affected all of us. Because this competition was taking place, none of us have quite resolved this opposite sex issue. We're all stuck at the stage where we are still looking for our opposite sex energy outside of ourselves, in the person of a male or a female we can think of as ideal and magical and can possess sexually. I've heard how many times, and I've used this my own self about my other half. I'm
Mm.
looking for my other half. Where you been all my life? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See the problem?
Mm.
Yes, I said, I think I do. In terms of our ability to evolve consciously, she continued, we are faced with a critical situation. As I said before, according to the eighth insight, when we first begin to evolve, we automatically begin to receive our opposite sex energy. It comes in naturally from the energy in the universe. But we must be careful because if another person comes along who offers this energy directly, we can cut ourselves off from the true source and regress. She chuckled to herself. What are you laughing at? I said. Renault once made this analogy, she said. He said that until we learn how to avoid this situation, we are walking around like a circle half complete. You know, we look like the letter C. Wow.
Mm.
We are very susceptible to a person of the opposite sex. Some other circle half complete coming up and joining with us, completing the circle that way and giving us a burst of euphoria and energy that feels like the wholeness that a full connection with the universe produces. Completing the circuit. I don't know. I was just shown something that you've said a lot, Lisa, about how, like when we have our conversations and we're completing that circuit, this is the same sort of thing, isn't it? About that energy.
Yeah, there's even a movie named it, Waiting to Exhale.
Waiting
That's a
to,
C.
Oh.
That's a C, right? Because it's
Mhm.
about when you think of the masculine and feminine principle, because that was running through my mind during this. Um, Another book we studied, right? About so you could say the divine feminine principle is to receive. I will receive. But the divine masculine is to gift or to give. It's that divine spark of movement, right?
right.
It's the exhale, if you will. And so when you can breathe on your own with the universe, just your own universal dance of receiving and gifting and receiving and gifting and receiving and gifting. And I would put it forth, the exhale begins this process, right? Because you gift your awareness to the field of pure potentiality, and it's made
Mm.
manifest and comes back to you. You receive it as your experience. So we are looking for that fullness of the connection, right? We want to exhale and inhale, to gift and to receive. And so we're walking around holding our breath, waiting for this other thing, when in reality, the other thing is you and it
Right.
surrounds you. But once you know that, the quality of a relationship with the opposite sex actually changes everything. Like it goes from one that disempowers, because remember, the other person has to act or behave in a certain way to feed you, or to empower, meaning I'm fed already, and this person adds to that, like some adventure or companionship or whatever it is that you're looking for from a relationship with another. And so that fullness and that you complete me needs to happen right here, solidly within self, before you
Mm-hmm.
can actually have a whole and complete relationship with anyone else. And you can know that all day long, but acting on that is wholly
Yeah,
something
it is
different.
difficult because I've said those words. I've said them because I know damn good and well I've shown up. I've never had a relationship where I was whole and complete
Right,
first.
right.
Never have had
Mhm.
any kind of a
Well, well, I did all that work prior to Albert so that I could have a relationship. Well, ironically, I had to get to the point where I no longer wanted a relationship. I didn't need a relationship anymore. I was so happy and content with myself. And
Yeah.
that is when he showed up. And so, ironically, 30 years later, I still find myself sometimes mad at it that it's not what I thought it was supposed to be, because I forget that where that energy should be coming from, and it's not over there
well,
anywhere.
that's right. That's right.
Right,
Has
right.
nothing to do with him, and it's back to
Yes.
me. So just because, I think I figured that all out one day, doesn't mean that I don't have to live it every day.
Right.
And that's a whole different
Well,
game.
yeah. Well, oh my God, as you're speaking, Lisa, this whole thing, this is okay. So I gotta
Yay.
share something personal with you
Please.
guys, and I guess it could go out into the world, whatever. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So I've been talking with somebody since November of this past year, and we were talking for almost a couple months before I went out to Georgia. And it's my best friend's husband's best friend. And we met when I was out there, and we liked each other a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
And we're in relationship right now, long
okay.
distance.
Right.
And it was something I did not see coming because he's 13 years younger than me. He's
Okay.
got all these, let's just say we're opposites, okay?
Sure.
But we're so attracted to each other. When I look into his eyes, where you can see the soul,
Hmm.
um, I definitely know that I have met this person in a different life,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But it was talking about the whole father thing. And I don't want to get too emotional here, but like I see so many parts of him that are like my dad. Is that
Mm.
a bad thing? No. It just, I'm not looking to date my dad or anything, like that, but it's just like there's so many good qualities. He's a carpenter, he's this, he's that, he's funny. And I don't know where it's going. I don't, because we're in two different states, obviously. So I did, one day at a time for sure, slow it down. We had a great week together. We were just like little kids, like we were teenagers or something, but it's just amazing how we're reading about this right now. And I don't want that addiction because I have had that with my ex-husband.
Yeah.
But I feel like I am more complete today as a 56-year-old than I ever have been in my life. So what does all this mean? Like I'm just trying to take it in and not overthink it because I love to overthink things and
Hmm.
just enjoy it and just be at like, wow, spirit really did bring me somebody. Was it who I was thinking he was going to bring? No, but there's just something that's just that female and male energy that I can't explain. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before. So I just want to share
Yeah,
that with you
so it's
ladies.
not lost on me that this is coming up for you too.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that the synchronicity of our book clubs, always
Yeah,
with what's happening in our lives, never
Absolutely.
fails to amaze me. Like, see,
yes,
the universe is completing us.
yep.
It's like in everything, it's everywhere, and you just have to see,
Yeah.
know it.
A- And I just want to go back for, what we're reading about earlier with the children. My
Yeah.
children are all adult. My twins are going to be 31 next week. And the one middle child, Megan, I love all my children, obviously, but she wants to have a relationship, but she wants to do it texting. Like she doesn't want, like usually I face to face with my kids when I can, but she just wants to do it through text. And it kind of hurts my heart. Like, what, don't you want to see your mom? And, and I have to accept that because that's what she needs for her energy. It's too much for her to have like a conversation like this face to face, and so and something was said in there. I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically it's just that acceptance of that's what she needs. And that's what I have to accept that. I have to accept that that's the relationship at this moment of what's best for her and her energy.
Right. Well, and that kind of speaks to addiction, really, to people. If you need people to respond or to relate to you in a specific manner, to feel some kind of way about them, to allow them in your life, or to feel like you're in a relationship with them, if that's defined by all kind of things that you dictate that they do, that's addiction. That's not true
Mm,
relationship. Because true
mm,
relationship allows the other to be authentically them. Like you said,
right,
she feels more comfortable with this form of communication. And so at
right,
that point, you allow the other to have their point of view without making it about you. And
exactly.
especially in terms of this is your child. So it's more than just you want a relationship with them. They're a family member and you want to love and honor and cherish and support your children. And so
Yes.
letting them be who they are is the best way to do that. Exactly.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
where they are in the moment.
Yes, which will
Because,
Right.
change over
yeah,
time
because I
and from
do
moment to
suspect that
moment.
would change. I do suspect that would change because
Yes,
that feels like in some ways something it's not about you.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
It,
Yeah.
no,
It's
it
not.
never is. It could not be.
Right. You can't
Yeah,
take it personal. Like I cannot take that
that's right.
personal.
That's right.
I mean, we had a 4-year span where we did not talk, just, about a year ago.
Mm,
So I don't want to lose whatever it is that she needs to feel comfortable, to feel safe in the relationship. I honor that and I respect that. And I still want to have a relationship with her. So if that's the only way that I
right.
can, to have that relationship with her, okay,
Okay,
that's,
good.
it's not my favorite way of connection
Right.
is face to face, but if I can't have face to face, this is like perfect, look at,
Yeah.
we
It
get
beats
to see each
nothing.
other once a week and it's just,
yeah,
you know, I like human connection. But then it does drain your energy, so I get that too. It's like you can't connect with everybody all at the same time, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, yeah. Thanks, ladies.
Beautiful. No, thank you for sharing. That was beautiful.
so Renault said that this is a classical codependent relationship and that it has built-in problems that begin to arise immediately. She hesitated as though she expected me to say something, but I only nodded. You see, the problem with this completed person, that both people think they have reached, is that it has taken two people to make this one whole person, one supplying the female energy and one supplying the male. This one whole person consequently has two heads or egos. Both people want to run this whole person they have created. And so, just as in childhood, both people want to command the other as if the other were themselves. This kind of illusion of completeness always breaks down into a power struggle. In the end, each person must take the other for granted and even invalidate them so that they can lead this whole self in the direction they want to go. Wow. I just saw a few things about my
Oh, me too. Me too. I
life.
definitely can relate to this, man.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yep,
buddy.
I can too.
But of course, that doesn't work, at least not anymore. Perhaps in the past, one of the partners was willing to submit themselves to the other, usually the woman, sometimes the man. But we are waking up now. No one wants to be subservient to anyone else any longer. I thought of what the first insight had conveyed about power struggles within intimate relationships and of the woman's outburst at the restaurant with Charlene. So much for romance, I said. Oh, we can still have romance, Carla replied. But first, we have to complete the circle on our own. We have to stabilize our channel with the universe. That takes time. But afterward, we are never susceptible to this problem again. And we can have what the manuscript calls a higher relationship when we connect romantically with another whole person, that we create a super person. And like I said, I've said that many times. I've never had, because I still haven't gotten that whole person here yet. So I've never experienced the higher relationship.
Mm.
But it never pulls us from the path of our individual evolution, which is what you think Marjorie and I are doing to each other now, isn't it? Pulling ourselves off our paths? Yes. So, how do we avoid these encounters? I ask. By resisting the quote, love at first sight feeling for a while, by
Mm.
learning to have platonic relationships with members of the opposite sex. But remember the process. You must have these relationships only with people who will reveal themselves totally, telling you how and why they are doing what they are doing, just as this would have happened with the opposite sexed parent during an ideal childhood. By understanding who these opposite sexed friends really are on the inside, one breaks past one's own fantasy projection about that gender. And that releases us to connect again with the universe. And I want to say, for me, I feel like this would be hard, especially if you don't know any of this. If you're not focused on your own evolution and realize
Mm.
that you are not a whole person on your own first.
Right.
It feels like that would be very difficult for anyone without that information on board. I mean, I'm 64. I'm just
Well,
now.
it is. It's difficult for everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
Remember also, she continued, that this is not easy, especially if one has to break away from a current codependent relationship. It is a real pulling apart of energy. It hurts, but it must be done. Codependence is not some new malady some of us have. We
Mm.
are all codependent, and we're all growing out of it now. I do feel like that's a true statement.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I feel like that is partly what's wrong with all the chaos in the world. Some are, even if they don't realize it, trying to pull their way out of it.
Yeah.
The idea is to begin to experience that sense of well being and euphoria experienced in the first moment of a codependent relationship when you are alone. You get to have him or her on the inside. After that, you evolve forward and can find that special romantic relationship that really fits you. She paused. And who knows, if both you and Marjorie evolve further, perhaps you will find that you truly belong with each other. But understand, your relationship with her has no way of working now.
Hmm.
Our conversation was interrupted as Hinton walked over and explained that he was retiring for the night and that our rooms had been prepared. We both expressed our appreciation for his hospitality, and as he walked away, Carla said, "I think I'm going to bed also. We'll talk later." I nodded and watched her as she left. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Julia. "I'm going to my room," she said. "Do you know where yours is? I can show you." "Please," I said, then asked, "Where is Marjorie's room?" She smiled as we walked down the hall and stopped in front of a particular door. "Nowhere near yours," she said. "Mr. Hinton is a very conservative man." I smiled back and bid her good night, then entered my room and held my stomach until I went to sleep.
Hmm.
I woke to the smell of rich coffee. The aroma permeated the entire house. After I dressed, I walked into the den. An older male houseworker offered me a glass of fresh grape juice, which I accepted. "Good morning," Julia said from behind me. I turned around. "Good morning." She looked at me intensely, then asked, "Have you discovered yet why we've run into each other again?" No, I haven't been. No, I said, "I haven't been able to think about it. I've been trying to understand addictions." "Yes," she replied, "I saw." "What do you mean?" "I could tell what was happening by the way your energy field looked." "How did it look?" I asked. "Your energy was connected to Marjorie's. When you were sitting here and she was in the other room, your field stretched all the way in there and attached to hers." I shook my head. She smiled and put her hand on my shoulder. "You had lost your connection with the universe. You had become addicted to Marjorie's energy as a substitute. It is the same way with all addictions. One goes through someone or something else to connect with the universe. The way to deal with this is to get your energy up and then center yourself again in what you are really doing here." I nodded and walked outside. She waited in the den. For about 10 minutes, I practiced the method of building energy that Sanchez had taught me. Gradually, the beauty returned, and I felt much lighter. I returned to the house. "You look better," Julia said. "I feel better," I replied. "So what are your questions at this point?" I thought for a minute. I had found Marjorie. That question had been answered. But I still wanted to find out where Will was. And I still wanted to understand how people would be acting toward each other if they follow this manuscript. If the manuscript's effect was positive, why would Sebastian and the other priests be worried? I looked at Julia. I need to grasp the rest of the eighth insight, and I still want to find Will. Maybe he was the ninth. "I'm going to Iquitos tomorrow," she said. "Would you like to go?" I hesitated. "I think Will is there," she added. "How do you know?" "Because of the thoughts I had about him last night." I said nothing. I had thoughts of you too, Julia continued, of both of us going to Iquitos. You're involved in this somehow. Involved in what? I asked. She grinned. In finding this last insight before Sebastian does. As she spoke, the image came to my mind of Julia and me arriving at Iquitos, but then deciding to go in separate directions for some reason. I felt I had a purpose, but it was unclear. I focused again on Julia. She was smiling. Where were you? She asked. Sorry, I said. I was thinking about something. Was it important? I don't know. I was thinking that once we get to Iquitos, that we would go into two different directions. Rolando came into the room. I brought the supplies you wanted, he said to Julia. He recognized me and nodded politely. Good. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Julia replied. Did you see many soldiers? No, I did not see any, he said. Marjorie walked into the room then and distracted me, but I could hear Julia explaining to Rolando that she thought Marjorie wanted to go with him to Brazil, where she would arrange passage back to the States. I went over to Marjorie. How did you sleep? I asked. She looked at me as though deciding whether to remain angry. Not very well, she said. I nodded toward Rolando. He is Julia's friend. He is leaving this morning for Brazil. From there, he will help you get back to the States. She appeared frightened. Look, you're going to be okay, I said. They've helped other Americans. They know people at the American Embassy in Brazil. In no time, you'll be home. She nodded. I'm worried about you. I'll be fine. Don't worry. As soon as I get back to the U.S., I'll call you. From behind me, Hinton announced that breakfast was being served. We walked into the dining room and ate. After Julia and Rolando seemed to be in a hurry, Julia explained that it was important for Rolando and Marjorie to get across the border before dark, and the journey would take all day. Marjorie packed some clothes that Hinton had given her, and later, while Julia and Rolando were talking by the door, I pulled Marjorie to the side. Don't worry about anything, I said. Just keep your eyes open, and perhaps you'll see the other insights. She smiled but said nothing. I watched Julia as Rolando helped her load her things into his small car. Her eyes met with mine briefly as they drove away. Do you think they will get through all right? I asked Julia. She looked at me and winked. Of course. And now we had better go as well. I have some clothes for you. She handed me a satchel of clothes, and we loaded these and several boxes of foodstuff into the pickup truck. We then said goodbye to Hinton and Carla and Moretta and drove northeast toward Iquitos. As we traveled, the landscape grew even more jungle-like, and we saw very few signs of people. I began thinking of the eighth insight. Clearly, it was a new understanding of how to treat others, but I didn't understand it completely. Carla had told me of the way one should treat children and the dangers of an addiction to a person. But both Pablo and Carla had alluded to a way to consciously project energy onto others. What was this about? I caught you, and I'm the minute I read that just now, I thought about how you have helped me breathe before.
Mm.
Am I in the right wheelhouse with that, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I caught Julia's eye and said, I haven't quite grasped the eighth insight. How we approach other people determines how quickly we evolve, how quickly our life questions are answered, she said. How does that work? I asked. Yeah, that's a good question, right? How does that work? Think about your own situation, she said. How have your questions been answered by people who came along, I guess? Were you completely open to their messages? Not really. I was mainly aloof. Were the people who brought messages to you pulled back also? No, they were very open and helpful. I hesitated, unable to think of the correct way to express my idea. Did they help you by opening you up? She asked. Did they fill you with warmth and energy somehow? Her remark uncapped an eruption of energy, of memories. I recalled Will's soothing attitude when I was on the verge of panic in Lima, and Sanchez's fatherly hospitality, and Father Carl's, and Pablo's, and Carla's concerned counsel, and now Julia's. They all had that same look in their eyes. Yes, I said, all of you have done that. That's right, she said, we have. And we were doing it consciously, following the eighth insight by lifting you up and helping you to get clear. That's more than just meeting where somebody is in the moment, isn't it, Lisa? Wouldn't you say?
Yes, it's like, okay, it's extending your own clarity. It's kind of like, I'll see what you can't see for you, right?
Mm.
I won't get offended that you can't see this. I won't take offense. Instead, I'll just project my own clarity on the subject 100, just steadfastly. And what that does is it's like you swim in that energy and almost surrender to it. It's nothing you did. You didn't pull it in. You didn't connect to it. You didn't create it. And then that's why sometimes when I walk away, you lose the ability to keep that clarity, that breathing, that whatever the energetic gift that was consciously given,
Right.
it walks away and recedes, right? Because I don't do it forever. It's for a period of time.
Right.
The support of particular something. That doesn't it doesn't serve long term to walk through life and give everybody everything, right? Because it's
Right.
exhausting to the person gifting. But the other person then just develops an addiction, if you will, or a codependency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
The real point.
that clarity just as a whole is what you're speaking on here, right?
Say this again.
Just emitting that clarity and that uplifting, just emitting it, not
Yeah, like you, like for instance, he's described or she's describing some scenarios, or he's recalling, I should say, some scenarios where he recognizes he was being aloof. He was lost in the control drama. But when they were consciously holding space, we'll call it, for being open, they're being what he needed to be for him.
I gotcha.
Instead of being triggered into their own control drama, and now they wrestle and tussle with control over the situation, they stayed in their center, fed by the universe. So now they have energy that they can gift freely because it doesn't detract from them.
Right.
But it affords you the opportunity to jump out of your control drama because you feel the clarity, and you could match that energy, reciprocate, connect allow it to be your ruling state.
Right.
And then, so they're being open and kind and generous. And that
that's what's
encourages
allowed me.
him now. He has access to open,
Right.
kind, and generous in lieu of aloof, which can only cause the friction and the fighting if the other decides to be triggered and go into the drama with you. It's all an invitation to play in a particular way. And
Wow.
so, like, remember I used to say, I like to issue the invitation, whether the other takes me up on it or not, it's none of my business.
Right.
And if you don't, I'm going to take my open and clear energy elsewhere, because I can clearly see that you don't want to leave the control drama, if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
What were you going to say, Lori?
I don't think I was gonna really say anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just taking it in right now.
Okay, very
But
good.
thank you.
Mhm.
Uh, apparently I turned this a little bit earlier than I should have. By lifting you up and helping you to get clear, we could search for the truth, the message that you had for us. Do you understand that? Energizing you was the best thing we could do for ourselves. What does the manuscript say about all this exactly? It says that whenever people cross our paths, there is always a message for us. Chance encounters do not exist, but how we respond to these encounters determines whether we're able to receive the message. If we have a conversation with someone who crosses our path and we do not see a message pertaining to our current questions, it does not mean there is no message. It only means we missed it for some reason. She thought for a moment and then continued. Have you ever run into an old friend or acquaintance, talked for a minute and left, then run into him or her again the same day or the same week? Yes, I have, I replied. And what do you usually say? Something like, well, fancy seeing you again, and laugh and go on your way. Something like that. The manuscript says that what we should do instead in that situation is to stop what we're doing, no matter what, and find out the message we have for that person and that person has for us. The manuscript predicts that once humans grasp this reality, our interaction will slow down and become more purposeful and deliberate. And I think so much so. Remember how I used to say that uh people with the it's even gotten to the point where people with the same energy, because I feel like I set up so many redundancies that if I didn't get the message from this person over here, now somebody that looks and feels just like them
Uh-huh.
coming down the path, coming down the track with pretty much the same message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. But isn't that hard to do, especially with someone who wouldn't know what you were talking about? Yes, but the manuscript outlines the procedures. You mean the exact way we're supposed to treat each other? That's right. What does it say? Do you remember the third insight that humans are unique in a world of energy in that they can project their energy consciously? Yes. Do you remember how this is done? I recall John's lessons. Yes, it is done by appreciating the beauty of an object until enough energy comes into us to feel love. At that point, we can send energy back. That's right.
Yeah.
Same principle holds true with people. When we appreciate the shape and demeanor of a person, Really focus on them until their shape and features begin to stand out and to have more presence. We can then send them energy, lifting them up. Of course, the first step is to keep our own energy high. Then we can start the flow of energy coming into us, through us, and into the other person. The more we appreciate their wholeness, their inner beauty, the more the energy flows into them. And naturally, the more that flows into us. She laughed. It's really a rather hedonistic thing to do, she said. The more we can love and appreciate others, the more energy flows into us. That's
Sheila, can you stop right there?
yeah.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Remember when, because you and I had this conversation a couple different times. You were really sick, and I was doing a lot for you. And I want to say it was during COVID time, but it was like a time where it was sick, and we all took our turn being sick. So it wasn't just you, but you in particular were feeling very emotional, a lot of gratitude, and you were saying to me, you know, it was almost like you felt as though I was doing too much and you couldn't repay me, or you were having some kind of a difficulty receiving what I was doing, is how I was perceiving it. And I said to you, I'm not just doing it for you. I'm doing this for me. Because, okay, they described this here perfectly. You can see it. Okay, so first of all, I'm seeing and honoring the beauty in you, right? And your value and what you mean to me, right? And so that this is how I would have described it as I find the part in the other person that is me, that God spark, the source,
Mm-hmm.
the eternal flame of source within the person, right? Just focus on that and grow it. I see it like just, oh, maybe it's just a speck. Maybe you got to look really hard sometimes. And some people you do. And then in other people, it's just there and it's so available to just bask in it. But the act of basking, like that whole focusing, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And
Mm-hmm.
so I grow that part of you. Okay, so that does one piece. What it does is it connects my energy to yours. But also you feel it because it's it's the part of us that is one. So by just my focusing on it, it grows and expands even within your body. You begin to feel it. You begin to benefit from it immediately. You love yourself. Like you were all teary-eyed and just overcome with this love and emotion, right? That was because I was focusing on that. You weren't in that moment. I was. And so that was me connecting to you so that I could give and you could receive in that way, right? But the reciprocity wasn't coming back from you. You didn't have it in you. I wasn't taking your life force. No, I was getting it from the universe,
Mm-hmm.
which is the part I was connecting with inside of you. I found the universe in you, if I'm making any sense here.
Yeah, no, you're
And
Yes, you are.
and by growing it through my focus and attention, I was pulling it from behind or through, from my own source energy was as I connected, right? And I gave you that energy by acknowledging it, it pulled in automatically, like there's no void. So the minute it leaves me and goes into you, more from the universe came into me. So you see, I was blessed equally, if not even more so, by the act of seeing your beauty, tending your needs. Because the moment that I did something that brought you relief, I would get that rush of relief as well because I felt concerned. I felt upset. I felt sad for your suffering, if that makes any sense. Just as a friend, nobody wants to watch someone else go
Yeah.
through a painful or particularly difficult situation. So it relieved my physicality immediately from feeling any kind of whatever behind that. It alleviated pain and suffering for you as well. And then the two of us got to swim in that energetic envelope. And so I wanted to make that distinction for you that if I was doing it for an ulterior motive, like to slurp from your energy, we would very quickly, both of us, lose energy. And I would
Yep.
get very sick, and then nobody could do for another because we'd have to find a third party that would feed us because we'd both be so drained.
Yeah.
So
That's a
that's why I
soul
was saying,
connection.
yeah,
That's soul connection. It's when you're just talking, Lisa, the whole
yes,
time was soul sister, soul sister. You two are soul sisters. You know what I mean?
yeah.
There's an energy there that it matches. It's a matching energy.
Yes. Well, and also it's in
It's a
each one
remembrance.
of us. So if somebody has magnetically come to you, they have that gift for you and you have a gift for them. And I like here
Right.
how they're talking about growing that, like acknowledging that too. Like there isn't anything that doesn't have source all up in it. And if we would just
Right.
take a minute, I love this. If we would just take a minute to discover why did you come to me now? And really perk up your soul ears, if you will, to what gift do you have for me? And then be very clear and authentic to say what comes to you. Like when she was saying, well, what did you see? Where did you go? Because she knew he was getting a message. He had tuned in when she asked him a question, so what do you think you're doing? Why are you here? What? And she had explained that she saw him doing something. And
Hmm.
so just us being really authentic with what pops in and then just give it, just say it. Um, Even if it makes no sense to me, that's probably your message. That's probably why you had to cross paths with me to pick up this piece on your way, and vice versa. And if we do the gift exchange consciously, then we both go about our way better for it. And it leads us right to the next synchronicity and the next thing. And then you could see how it's all this beautifully choreographed dance that the whole is doing because that soul within me and you is what's orchestrating this whole dance anyway. And so being present to it feels like the name of the game moving forward for me, for sure.
Well, that's so true. I love that she says it's rather hedonistic thing to do because here's the thing. It's clear to me, very clear, that what we're talking about here, what we've been talking about in this entire book study today, and why I asked if we could publish it. And I'm so grateful that you both said yes. This is not the way any of us really, have been brought up to approach life or to think about life in any way,
Agreed.
shape, or form.
Right.
True.
Such a foreign concept way of thinking and feeling into things. But it is also, now that I've been doing this kind of allowing of myself to experience now with you in particular, Lisa, these now as of right now, it's 10 years this year. It's 10 years. In July will be 10 years since we've known each other.
Wow.
And and it's taken all that 10 years.
10 years since we've lived together.
Yes, 10 years since we lived here. Well, we moved in November of 20
November it will be. Jasmine and I were just talking about that.
November of 2016. So in November it will be 10 years since we've been living together, and it's
Yeah.
taken all that time for me to get to where I am right now with this.
Yeah.
And to see, but to also know and recognize that this is not, it feels so natural to me now, but it sure as crap did not 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And that's not at all the way most of us were raised to think and feel. And the the very first thing most people say is, "Oh, that's all frou frou, poo poo. I don't know what the hell you're talking about," kind of thing. Because we don't allow ourselves. But oh my God, she's right. It's a very hedonistic thing to do, and it feels rather good to allow it to happen in that way,
Yeah.
ladies.
You
Wow.
do it for you, but it benefits the whole, which is, and it feels amazing.
No, it does. That's what I'm saying. It benefits the whole.
Yeah.
It does feel amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, so much. Unfortunately, I gotta go to
Yeah,
work now. This is only
yeah.
today. I didn't want to schedule this, and I'm like, ah. But I've really
That's
enjoyed
okay. I'm so glad you
this.
came.
Well, the whole book has been fantastic, but this
No,
is
it
just getting
really
better
has.
and better as we go on.
I agree. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I agree too. Thank you,
Yeah.
love
ladies.
you.
Till
Have a
next
great
Thank
week.
time.
you. Mwah.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
See
Have
you
a great
next
rest of your
week.
day.
Love
Thank
you.
you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.